Welcome to Beyond Sundays, a podcast from two friends trying to follow Jesus more closely. Odds are you won't always agree with us, and we'll stumble along the way, but we promise to be open and honest all the way through. I'm Matt here with Hannah. We've got a website that you can use to keep our show links and socials all in one place. Check out beyondsundays.pod.com. Easy for me to say. We're grateful to all our listeners and genuinely thank you for fitting us into your busy life. You can help grow the community by following, rating, and reviewing us on Apple and Spotify. If you have not done that, and you could take 10 seconds to do that, it seems silly, but it really helps us out a lot. And we do appreciate our community and all of their time. Hannah.
Absolutely.
What's up?
Well, I have my Balloon Fest shirt on today. And to be honest,
of
I want to ask
course.
you and Michelle to go, but
Listen, we
I was waiting to
hold
see if maybe you would.
we hold you in incredibly high esteem. I have two things I have to go to on Saturday. I am going to be in a dunk tank tomorrow night at Woodlawn High School for a back to
Oh,
school bash. So listen, I'm booked.
and two things on Saturday.
Two things on Saturday. Well, the food giveaway that our church does, and then I've got a family event that night. So just no
Yikes.
time for the Balloon Fest. It's such a tragedy.
Well, my life will be changed next week in a good way. It'll be just so
Well,
positive.
I'll tell you what, my life is being changed right now because as we speak, our oldest daughter, Madeline, is out on her first hangout as a high school student.
That's
Uh,
wild.
and she's got a friend that's a couple years older that can drive. So they've texted, they've set this up. I have no details about what they're going to be doing. She asked me when she needed to be home, and I told her a time, and she's just out and about.
So
This is
really,
real
what are you,
old people talk right
but
here.
what
This
are
is
you
real.
feeling? Are
You
you
know,
nervous? Are you kind of like, oh, I really am not worried? Are you
no, no,
like,
no.
oh my gosh, my daughter? Like,
No, I'm not worried about the friend she's with. I'm not worried at all about that. I feel great about that. I think that's
yeah,
good. I am worried about how much longer I'm going to live. You know what I mean? If my kid is
yeah.
already doing this, I'm pretty much middle aged, and then it's just downhill from here. So, but I think in general, this whole thing, I have been waiting my whole teaching career to have one of my children in high school, and now
Yeah,
she is, and I feel great about it. You know?
really.
So yeah, I
So
love it.
you feel, I just am thinking like when you're that age, like I think back to that age, you don't think about, oh, this is like the last, not time, but some of the last times that you're spending every evening home. But
Yeah.
you're watching it from the opposite end and knowing it's not the same. Like we're home every night because we're all here. Like the girls are going to slowly start going to do stuff. It'll, like, how does that, do you think
Yeah,
about that?
yeah.
Does it matter?
I don't think that this will be. I mean, she just now is a freshman, so she can't drive herself. The friends that she's around the most that are the closest, they're also freshmen. They can't
Yeah.
drive. So I'm thinking right now, I'm not thinking that yet. I'm
Okay.
thinking this
Okay.
is more like a sporadic thing that will happen sometime. Now, if this turns into something more regular, not that I won't let her go, but I
Sure.
probably will start feeling different things like, okay, we've really moved into a new stage. This right now, this doesn't feel like a new stage to me.
Oh my goodness. Was Michelle, was she sad or was she like, oh my gosh,
Nah,
what?
she's fine. I mean, I think we like that she's here, and I will say this for sure. I like how much I trust her.
Yeah.
That I'm
Yeah.
not worried at all. I'm not worried about what she's going to get into. I'm not at all. So I really
Yeah.
like that fact,
She's
and
wonderful. So yeah.
yeah, we'll see how
Well,
it goes.
I have a friend at work who said, again, I mean, I don't have children, so I can't speak to this, but she says that um having kids that are grown is harder, 100 times harder than it
Hmm.
is having kids like even toddlers and terrible twos and things like that. Because for her, she trusts her kids. She has wonderful kids, but they are making decisions for them. She's not making
Sure.
decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but I don't know. I just feel like in maybe this is easy for me to say right now in this moment. I'm leaning into the direction of, well, I she needs to be ready.
Yeah.
Like she is gonna be not that I'm not one of those parents at all. That's like you're 18, okay, bye. You know, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna think that at all. I hope she lives here all the way through college. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like her being here. I enjoy her. So, I want to keep her for as long as I can. But at some point she does need to be able to go and do,
Yeah.
you know. So
It's just such
I think it's good.
maybe at some point we can talk about this because I am interested in, the Bible says to be fruitful, multiply, to have children, all this.
Yeah,
But
sure.
it's it is such a scary idea to me to create a kid. It's you made it. Like it's
Hmm.
your child.
Hmm.
And then
Hmm.
you're raising them for them to be their own thing. That's scary. Like they don't belong to you.
Nope.
That's
Nope. And
scary.
this high school, and again, maybe this is because this is my 15th year teaching high school, is that I spend all of my time around people who are literally doing this all the time. And that this stage is, I just think it's super interesting. It's great to see
Yeah.
it. Sometimes there are like monumental moments when things happen, but most often the way I see it is it's kind of a slow progression. And
Okay.
I don't know, it's almost like when you see somebody every day, you can't tell that they've lost 15 pounds, but if you haven't
Yeah.
seen them in 6 months, it just clicks right away. So I don't know. I think she's out there on her little slow progression journey. I like
And
it.
she's so cool. Just a shout out to her. She is so funny and she's wise and she's a product of the two of you. Just witty and extremely extremely smart and knows the word of God. Just to put a little plug out to my girl.
Well,
I
we'll
hope
see.
she's having so much fun.
We'll follow up next week and see if it devolves into some worse style of old people talk. And if I really am close to dying, I don't know. Well,
No, no, no. Middle age, I think middle age is the best.
is
I
it?
do. I'm not
Is it?
there, but I do think so. Yeah. Yeah, I
Well,
do.
I, let me tell you what I don't think is in middle age. I am not sure that I think the American church is in middle age.
Okay, tell me more.
Yes, and in fact, we are going to talk about whether or not the American church is killing itself.
Yeah.
And maybe we can kind of divorce this from just larger trends in general of people going to church less. And we'll see maybe if we can tease apart or pull apart what's just kind of a natural process that's been happening in this country for a while versus are we doing things to wound ourselves? Okay,
Mhm.
so before I have some stats I'm going to hit you
Okay.
with. I want you to give me like a rating here. Okay, is the American church, is it middle-aged? Is it elderly? Is it in the nursing home? Is it on
Mm.
hospice care? Or is it dead?
Oh, middle age. What was the next one?
Middle age, elderly, but still living at home, kind of able in a nursing home, on hospice, or dead.
Oh, geez. I don't believe it's dead.
Okay. I love when I
Um,
don't tell you, I don't put any of this in
I
the
know.
notes and
I'm
I just
like,
hit you with
oh
it
my
live. I
gosh.
love this.
What was the one before hospice?
Nursing home. So need some assistant, you know what I mean? Like,
I almost wonder. I think it's in the upper levels of the nursing home close to hospice because
okay.
there it feels like there's some surge, but um definitely dwindling. Like stats don't lie, you know?
No, stats don't lie. And here are some for you, and then I'll just let you react in whatever way you want to. So, for the first time in the recorded history of America, church membership has fallen below 50%, meaning that there
Wow.
are more people who are not Christian in America than are Christian. Now, if you took that individually between people who do not believe in anything or are Muslim or are Buddhist, like Christians are by far still the one single biggest group in the country, but they're not the majority anymore. The average age of a church congregation is 57 years old,
Mm.
whereas the average age of the country is
Woo.
right where I'm at, 39 years old. So and I think this is just something that we know just from being around most churches. It does not happen to be the case in the church that we go to, but a lot of churches are full of older people and not a whole lot of
Yes,
younger people.
yes, yeah.
And then finally, this may be the hammer to me is that 32% say that they have trust in organized religion just as a general principle. So you're right,
Mm.
stats don't lie. And maybe you are right. Maybe the American church has kind of been in the nursing home for a while and headed towards hospice.
You know, I that first stat that you said that for the first time in history,
Yeah.
below 50%, is it
Mm.
below 50% are attending
Yes.
or a member of a church?
Yes.
So I got to just work this out in my brain for a second. So
Sure.
the United States was it was built on um, freedom of religion,
Yeah.
and there are some people that argue like we've got to get back to God, we've got to get back to God. Um, Although I am a believer that they weren't establishing it on Christian beliefs, it was the freedom of religion. But I can see with these stats why people would feel like we are moving away from a Christian nation. Because if at one point more than 50% of the country was a member of a church and now they're not, like,
Not at one point, at all points.
That's crazy.
Everything up till now. Now, I guess we should
That's
say this real
crazy.
quick. I don't think that they were keeping records of this in the 1800s, late 1700s. There's no way they were polling the country, you know. But I think we just know from history that even more people were members of church in the 1800s and the 1700s, right? It's just been a decline, and it just has gotten to the point now where it's less than half. Yeah,
Yeah, and like when I start to think about that, I mean, I think there are a couple reasons for that. I start
sure.
to think like um that people are not as interested in organized religion anymore. And
Hmm.
that's not to say I've been very vocal about this recently. I don't believe religion is bad.
Right.
I think you were the one that said it's when religion replaces relationship, when there's
Yeah.
not relationship there. But I do think we deem all religion as bad because a lot of times it is missing relationship. So I think some of that's come to light.
Hmm. I
Um,
think most people, like in the external world, I think their view of organized religion is very much what you're citing. It is devoid of
yes,
the relationship. It's fake. It's a bunch of rules. They're hypocritical. I think a
yes,
lot of people think that.
I think so too. Um, two things I start to think about though. One of them being maybe again I don't have stats on this, but I feel like there's been a rise in a lot of extracurricular activities, and so you
Okay.
think of like ball games, and you think
Okay.
other things have become priority.
Sure.
Where before church was that was your social, that was what you did
Yeah.
socially.
Yeah.
So I do think that is a part of it a little
Hmm.
bit, but I'm also really interested in this idea of the encourage. Okay, let me express this encouragement and the growth of education.
Oh.
Now, I think that in religion, and I will say this for my own, I mean, I've heard it in my own ears, the discouragement of going to school and being educated, because when
Mm.
you are, it can sway your thoughts. You know,
Sure.
you may learn things that are not biblical. And I think that that language hurt people that ended up becoming more educated, because then there were more questions and there was not freedom to ask those questions. It
Yeah.
wasn't the education that it wasn't the education itself. And so that's where I feel like we may have done this to ourselves, at least in that pocket of it.
I think there's just an enormous amount of truth to what you're saying, and this is going to be a hard podcast for us to talk about these issues because, like a lot of times, we're really going to have to paint with broad brushes, and
Mm-hmm.
there may be listeners that can think of examples that kind of go against the grain of what we're saying. And I'm not at all questioning that those things aren't true, and the, kind of the broad strokes things that we're saying, there are going to be examples or churches or communities that kind of go against the grain for sure. But at least from where I'm trying to come at, like your broad brushstroke of, I don't even know for sure if I think it's like dissuading people to become educated, but it's almost like the church's reaction to having educated people, like the church is not like representing people who are educated in their
Yeah.
assembly. You know what I'm saying? They're not like making them
Yeah.
feel welcome. They're not dealing with some of the thoughts that they're having. They're not dealing with the realities of just things that these people have learned that are true facts that the church kind of closes or turns a blind eye to. I think that's very damaging for people.
Well, and it's naive. I mean,
Yeah.
I think sometimes I'm sure that is what pushes people away as you come in with these ideas and these thoughts and these questions. And then to just be shut off and say, well, that's not biblical. That's not God. And you're like,
Right.
I see it here. This is it's like in the Old Testament where it says something about the gods having babies or whatever. What doesn't it say something crazy like that? Like
Well, I
you
mean,
can't argue.
angels having relations with
There
women
we
and
go.
giving birth to
That's
giants. Yeah. Yeah.
yes, like we do brush over that a lot.
Yeah.
And I do think lots of times if somebody brought that up and is like, can we talk about this? People be like, oh, that's not biblical. That's not right. And you're not given the freedom just to have these open conversations. That's
Mm.
what I've always appreciated about our relationship is
Yeah.
I could come to you and say, what is this? This is my
Yeah.
thought process. What does this mean? And I feel like Big C Church, that has been
Mm.
pushed down a little bit.
Well, if you're coming from like a more educated background, and I can speak. I mean, we both have college degrees, so I can speak from coming from that world. Some is that that kind of background is very open to conversations, it's very open to
Yeah.
critical thought, it's very open to a lot of different things. And if you return as an educated person or you go to a church environment that's like to your point is not open to these types of conversations or just kind of shuts them down or does what the an education person would think is just like closing their eyes to things,
Yeah.
it's going to get pretty discouraging and frustrating pretty fast when you got
Yeah.
one community that's very open and then one community that's very closed. I mean, you can make an argument, shouldn't it be the opposite? Like
You would
the
think
church
so.
has the truth. Why are we scared to put the truth on display and weigh out the truth? It's God, right? It's
Yeah.
going to be true at the end of the day anyway.
I think we're scared too to adapt.
Mm.
And I don't mean changing the core beliefs. Again, this is something you preach at church all the time. At the end of the day, what we believe is Jesus. How are we getting
Yes.
to Jesus? That's what it's, there's nitty gritty. There's stuff in the Bible that
Yes.
of course it means something.
Right.
Don't get wrapped up in the weeds of it. Like it's to get to Jesus. And so I think lots of times we start to, and I completely lost where I was going in my train of thought.
Is it education? Something about that? Is it
I don't remember. I
okay? Church people getting in the weeds of stuff that don't matter and tripping
I don't
people
know.
up. Okay,
Totally
okay.
lost my train of thought. Sorry, guys. I
Well,
hope
off
you
the
still
tracks,
love me.
and
I hope
we
you
had a
still
wreck.
love me after that because I have no clue. I was driving a train and it's gone. It's
I
just
still love
gone.
you. I do. So I have kind of broken down this into some categories of some types of things I think could be possible if we're going to try to tease this out between like a natural decline versus what's self-inflicted. I do think we should just spend a second and give a nod to the natural decline because this is something that has played out over the world. And kind of as a general rule, the more wealthy a society gets, the less religious
Mm,
it becomes. And there,
interesting.
there's some scripture to that you just immediately think of the parable of the sower and the cares of life coming in and eating the seed, eating the word,
Mm-hmm.
and that's biblical. But what was super interesting, like for instance, Europe has had a decline of religion quicker than the United States has. So what's been super interesting is for a long time, the US has been the richest country in the world, but also a very religious country. And so
Yeah.
now at this point, we're starting to see this religion. It's like it's now starting to take root in the U.S. And so I do think some of this could just be a natural byproduct of our society, our culture, the just tons of money that we have to entertain ourselves and do the things that we want to do, and those cares of life things kind of stealing the word from our heart.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't know that about Europe, which makes it even more interesting to think about. Um, but it does kind of prick my heart when I start to think about the loss of whenever we lose religion, whenever we make more money, because it's not that money is wrong, but you think about these people in the Bible that were making money. You have the fishermen, they were making money. Jesus asked them to leave those things.
Yeah.
And so there's reason for it. Wasn't this whole dying daily, this whole really setting your priorities the right way. It's not because money's bad. It's because there's that understanding you can start relying on other things and it will take precedent over God.
Yeah. I mean, Jesus knew this 2,000 years, you know what I mean? He's
2,000 years ago.
speaking directly to this. And
Yeah.
this is to me, it's like one of the core reasons why the Bible is so powerful is because you can take a parable that Jesus told about something that we don't even have anymore, which is people sowing the seed by hand. And you
Yeah.
can just directly apply that to our modern day society. And it just fits like a glove because it's
Yeah.
what we're seeing. So, okay, so I do think that I don't want to blame all of this on the church's fault. And to be honest with you, and this might surprise some of our listeners, it's not going to surprise you. I don't have a super high opinion of the Big C Church. I think that
Yeah.
the Big C Christian Church has a lot of missteps. I think there is a lot of hypocrisy. I think a lot of the things that the outside world levels at the church, unfortunately, are true. And so I kind of come to this biased thinking that the American church is kind of killing itself and is whatever natural decline we're kind of like adding to that natural decline. Is that where you are at on that, or do you think something different?
Yeah. No, I absolutely think that. I'm on the same page as that. I think we've done a lot of it to ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about what we've done to ourselves then, and we can just kind of weigh these out and see where we're at on some of these. And the first one I highlighted is something I'm just terming friendly fire. And this is essentially the concept that there are like a Baskin Robbins worth of 32 flavors of Christianity,
Yeah, yeah,
and you can go find what you want where you want, and that sometimes some of those different denominations or flavors of Christianity, sometimes they will snipe at each other. And
yeah,
instead of coming together and realizing that, we're all on hashtag Team Jesus here,
yes.
we'll kind of snipe at each other and do things at each other. So, but that's been the case in the United States for a long time. So maybe this friendly fire idea, maybe this is really not something that's new, that's adding to this killing of the church.
No, I mean, I don't think it's new, but I think it definitely is what doesn't allow us to be unified. I mean, I start thinking about it, examples, and I'm curious if you were thinking of these similar examples.
Hmm.
The maybe, and maybe this is a heavy one, but the biggest one to me is like Trinity versus oneness.
Okay.
Um, it- I just feel like I feel like um we start battling semantics a lot of times. Is that the
Yes.
word semantic?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, God is God,
Right.
and we all work. And maybe I'm simplifying it too much, but I feel like that becomes this killing point for people. And it's like we're all working towards the same goal. Why are we arguing about something like this? You know?
Yeah.
So I do feel like that is an internal fight that happens in the Big C church that people could point to and say, look, you guys can't even agree on this
Hmm.
one thing. You know, how
How am I
how
going to
can the Bible,
trust you with my soul? Yeah.
when it makes the Bible seem questionable? You
Yeah.
know, it makes something that we hold so valuable seem questionable.
Yeah. That I definitely agree with that. That was not where my mind went right away. Um, it's so interesting that you just started talking about like the US and America earlier, because I think it seems to me where the church has problems is when, like, we do have the freedom in the United States to believe what you want to do and live a lot of different ways that you want to live. For a long time in this country, people were Christians and they didn't really push those bounds as much. But I think
Yeah.
what we've seen, lately in modern times is there are many, many more people pushing the bounds of many different types of lifestyles. And so the church, when it has to live in a society where those things are protected and they're legal and they're okay, the church really has a lot of trouble interacting with that kind of stuff. So I just started immediately thinking about um, like denominations that have split over whether or not women should be allowed to be
Yeah.
ministers. I
Yeah. I
think you've
thought
seen
about
that.
that too. Yep.
I think you've seen denominations split over whether or not gay couples should be welcome into the church or
Yep.
married in the church. And so it's again when the church kind of has to come to grips with this modern, well, it's really been the historical American notion of you're free to live the way that you want to live and believe
Yeah.
what you want to believe. There are just more people doing that. And when the church has to come to grips with that, I think it really struggles with that.
I think so too. I do think so those are, I mean, those are pretty heavy issues, but you think even within denominations that believe strict rules. I mean, there
Sure.
are denominations that have split over things like um, men can, everybody has to wear long sleeves and others can wear short sleeves.
Sure.
So it can be things like that too, like things that a whole denomination has adopted, and then some want to stay stricter and some want to go lighter on it. Like television was a big thing when television happened. So when culture
Yeah.
changed,
Yeah.
it was whether or not you could have television in your home.
Right.
So that kind of split people up.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to suggest that as the church has to kind of come to grips with and deal with modern issues, I'm not at all suggesting that there isn't like a right thing and a wrong thing, because I do think sometimes there is a right
Sure.
thing and a wrong thing. But
Yeah.
but I think what's unfortunate sometimes when you get this friendly fire or these fracturing of denominations is that leads to some people slipping through the cracks, and they don't fall in either camp. They're somehow I don't want to suggest they're weaker, but they don't fall in either camp, and so they end up just being released and they don't have anything anymore. And I just think you've seen that more lately in American culture is these denominations are having issues, and I just wonder if it's leading to some people spilling out the cracks and not going at all anymore.
Yeah. I'm curious about that idea of spilling out the cracks because I wonder, I don't know if it's so much that people are just missed as it is people don't want to be a part of
That could be
something
too.
that's supposed to be holy and supposed to bring, like Liam has made comments to me before that I really like. Um, he'll say things like, that becomes, maybe this is the right word, it becomes kind of bureaucratic.
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
and it's like at that point you're just living a worldly thing in something that's not supposed to be worldly.
Yeah.
And so I think that can cause issues because this is a place you're supposed to go for peace. And here we are arguing about things that don't feel like they should be. Well,
Like an
sometimes they should be, but
organization becomes more important than the mission
yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yeah.
And who's at
Yeah.
the top and
Yeah.
how, who says this is right and who doesn't, and what are the rules and what are, again, rules are not bad,
Right.
but I think that puts a bad taste in people's mouth. People don't have time. We all have enough drama every place else. We don't have time for that.
Yeah. I think we're probably going to agree on all these, but I do think that I see some of this friendly fire stuff, contributing to this issue of fewer people going to church because of what you're talking about, disunity and drama and fracture, and those are not things that are conducive to like a growing, healthy church community when you've got a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so number two is scandal fatigue.
Yeah.
This is maybe kind of related sometimes because sometimes you get a big scandal and it splits apart a denomination or
Sure.
something bad happens as far as that goes. And this doesn't require a whole lot of explanation. This is essentially, and we've seen a lot of this in the headlines, the
Yeah.
X powerful person that's attached to X powerful church does Y horrendously bad thing. And now it almost is to the point where you just roll your eyes and you're like, well, of course.
There they go
know,
again.
it's almost like every powerful person, you just assume there are terrible skeletons in their closet rather than having trust in them.
Yeah. And I feel like one of the big issues with that is that people in leadership in church settings specifically are often given a pass because of their power. And what I mean by that is
Mm.
in a lot of instances, really, I feel like in most denominations I've seen that you're taught not to question the man of God. He's the man of God. He knows the right thing. And so when you get a man of
There's some
God,
Bible to that, though. I mean, there is,
there
yeah,
is, there
yeah, I
is.
know you know that, but
But when you have a man of God who is dealing with the finances of the church, but they, eat out every week, they don't know how to manage their own finances, they've never taken a business class, that sort of thing can be very, very frustrating. And so then we're taught to, again, you should honor the people.
sure.
I'm not saying that at all, but we're taught not to press it. We're taught not to say it's the man of
And
God.
they
They
can
have
make
these,
mistakes, though, to your point.
and
Yeah,
so that's the other side of it
right.
is I remember, and I won't go into detail about this, but I
Sure.
remember a story of a pastor that messed up pretty heavily.
Mm.
And they I don't the church did what the church should have done. The pastor was given a chance to have some time off, to regroup, and then to allow God's grace to cover him and
Hmm.
come back.
Hmm.
And obviously there are different instances where that does not work. It's not going to work. But there's two sides to that coin.
Yes.
Somebody, they should be able to be a pro. They are not perfect.
Right. No.
And I think that's the issue is they're considered that. But
Yeah.
when they come out and say they're not perfect, it doesn't mean that religion and church and pastors and every
No.
preacher is
Right.
just bad.
Right. But you just get this disillusionment because this is not fair either. But it's almost like we were having some problems with a piece of furniture
Mm-hmm.
and we bought a warranty on it. And so I was calling this warranty company and I never thought that this was going to be like a walk in the park or fun or good.
Yeah.
But the person I had on the phone, I was trying to, like explain some things to them. And I just finally leveled with them. I dropped all the pretense and I was like, look, man, this is not your fault, but you are the person that I am talking to at this company right now. So
Yeah.
you're the person that to me, I have to hold you responsible because I can't hold the company responsible. So this is not personal. You know what I'm saying? I was trying to like
Yeah.
diffuse some of the tension that was going on. But really, when you get right down to it, the pastor is kind of like the customer service rep for God.
Yes.
And so it's not necessarily really fair, but when everybody's putting their attention and their trust in on this human being and the human being messes up, to your point, right, that's going to cause a lot of I was very disillusioned with the whole furniture company, but I was
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
talking to the one person, and I think that happens like in a bigger sense with God sometimes because people get
Yeah.
disillusioned with some kind of mistake. The other thing I think that we see all the time is it seems like to me that churches their instinct is to hide it or cover it up
Yes.
rather than just to
Yes.
tell the truth and be open about it. Because I think in their mind, they're trying to lessen the impact of it. But I feel like we're living in a culture and a society now that really values transparency and
A hundred
openness,
percent.
and we're just the church is doing the wrong thing to cover up these problems.
Yeah, and I was trying to put myself in that scenario to think, what do you do? What do you do? But I do think you have to be transparent. And I do think that you do have to hold those people accountable.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes because you are in a position of leadership, your level of accountability is going to be higher, which may mean your fall is going to be harder,
Yeah.
you know? And because sometimes I want to extend so much grace. I'm like, they need mercy, but it's like, well, that's the price of the calling too,
It is. You're right. I
you
was just
know?
thinking while you were talking that the individual church, the local church, it's not really about the pastor. It's about
No.
Jesus. And so if
Yeah.
handling it right and being transparent costs the pastor his job, his reputation, I'm not saying like crucify him, you know what I mean?
No.
But if handling it with transparency and keeping the trust of the congregation costs the pastor the job, the pastorship, well, it's not about that person anyway. It's about Jesus. It's about not losing your trust and your like sense of community with all of these people
Yes.
who you're in charge of ministering to.
Well, yeah, and sometimes it's heavy stuff. It's stuff you can't come
Yes.
back from. I mean,
Yes.
stealing people's money, like things like
Yes.
that, that's a big deal.
It's a big
It's a
deal.
big
You gotta
deal.
you gotta try to avoid stuff like
You
that for
gotta
sure.
avoid it. Yeah.
Well, okay. So speaking of the pulpit, this is in my mind, and you can sway me from this. In my mind, this is the single biggest reason that America is shooting itself in the foot as far as churches
Yep.
go, and that is bringing politics into the and I think we see partisan preaching. I think that you see it. You know what? I'm going to dispense with the both sides thing. I'm not even going to talk about that because it really doesn't matter what side it is.
No.
I'm more convinced than ever that the goal of a local church assembly and the goal of a political party, they may overlap in some areas. They may have some things that they think similarly about, but fundamentally, the mission of a local church and the mission of a political party are just two different
Totally
things,
different.
no matter what political party you're talking about.
They are not working. No political party is working to serve Christ first. That's not that's doesn't mean those people in the party don't love the Lord,
Right.
but that's not their goal.
Right.
Pastor says it all the time. If your identity is in a political party, you are not serving God. You're not serving God first. Your identity should be in Christ. Number
Yes.
one thing. And I do think, okay, I'm going to be totally transparent. I'm
Sure.
going to be totally honest here.
Okay. Okay.
If I was searching for a church and I showed up to a church and they got up and the first message I heard, they were speaking politically, I would not go back. It would not be the church. It would
I
not
mean,
be the
I
church for
agree.
me.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know why you wound up so big for that. I'm totally on board with that. Yeah, I agree.
I
It's
mean,
just not the same thing. It's not the same
no,
thing.
no, it's not. And the crux is, I say that all the time. The crux
That's okay.
is that you don't know what people are going through. And so when
Right.
it comes to politics, yes, whatever you deem the most important in that election may not be what's most important to someone else because of their life circumstances. Somebody may be worrying about their small business and the amount of money that they're going to have to pay in taxes.
Sure.
And so they're voting for someone that may not align with what you're concerned with, which may be something more socially. I mean,
Right.
whatever it is.
Right.
And so when you get up and start preaching that, you're just totally alienating people with something that is not important.
Right. Right.
You can teach the things you want to teach
Yes.
without bringing politics
Yes.
into it.
Yes.
And
I
we should.
absolutely believe that the church should teach the truth without the politics.
Yes.
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 And where again, I've already said this, but where where the position of the politics and the church overlap, that's going to happen sometimes with the Republican Party, and that's going to happen sometimes with the Democratic Party.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that you adopt those principles as the church, because the church is separate from those things. Jesus just said it straight, clear as day to Pilate. Pilate said, "Are you a king?" Jesus said, "My kingdom is not of this earth." And so I do wonder if this increasing, what I think is this increasing politicization of church is really coming from the fact that like American society is changing, and there's a frustration that there are people falling away from church, and that there's like politics is a way to kind of control what we think is right and what
Oh,
we
for
think is
sure.
wrong. And so instead of like, doing what you should be doing and trying to win people, and the only way that people are going to change their mind anyway is if they come to Jesus and change their mind. Well, we're kind of skipping that. We're politicizing everything so that we can go ahead and control it and make
Wait,
the world we think we need to be in the first place.
you mean to say it's Jesus that changes people's mind?
Oh, wow.
It's
That is
not the
crazy.
it's not the Facebook post. It's not
It
what
is
we
not.
share on Facebook and say you won't be my friend if you blah 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 or
It is
you know,
not. It's not polling. It's not
it's
voting.
not
It's none
Jimmy
of that.
Chat 222 that shares a news story that doesn't make any sense.
Well, one time that almost did get me, but then I came to my senses. So
And I say that because not to mock it, that is me sometimes. I just pull up this thing and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what it means. I'm reading these stories sometimes and I believe it. And then I have
yeah,
to fact check
yeah.
it with my
You
husband.
you know I'm so far on this issue. I'm so like deep into my thoughts on this issue that like you I like how you term that. Like if I was shopping for a new church, I was looking for a new church. I would be much more likely to stay at a church where the pastor got up and said, "You shouldn't vote because you're wasting your
Yes.
time. Those goals are
Yeah.
not your goals. You should spend all that time and effort and thought capacity into getting your relationship closer with Jesus than somebody who would to politicize it and tell me to vote for which candidate. I am much more likely to go to the first church."
100%. Now, again, I do believe it's your civic duty and you should vote,
Yeah,
but I'm on the same page as you. I would go to the church that said, don't even, we're not getting involved. We're not even dealing with it. Than the church that got up and tried to tell me how I needed to vote.
agree. Okay, consumer Christianity. This is essentially, I feel like we talked about this a little bit last week, that you are displaying Christianity as like a marketing campaign, or you're making it palatable to people. You're trying to appeal to people and make people like Christianity so that they will come to church because it's a version of entertainment or it's a social club. You're trying to do now. I think some of those things are included in Christianity, but if you're not giving them the whole picture, then you're doing them a disservice. How bad do you think the consumer Christian culture is in America?
All capital bad. All
B
capital
A
bad.
D B A D.
BAD. I think we try to put this church in a cookie cutter thing. Now, again, like you got to be respectful of people's time. You've got to be, but
Yes, sure.
when we get so caught up in this scheduling and getting people in and out and oh we can't do this because it takes up too much people's time or whatever, I think then it becomes this consumer culture and it's more about creating an experience for people as opposed to creating an environment where God's spirit can move us.
Mhm.
But I think that we see it a lot right now. I think it's there.
Yeah. Do you think the rise of the megachurch is ultimately a good thing or a bad thing? And let me
Mm,
just say, I'm not against any particular megachurch. I don't have any in mind. And I can see it from both sides. I can see it in terms of like, well, you're pooling all these people's resources together. And so
sure.
sometimes those churches can act in ways that smaller churches can't. But then on the other hand, I've never gone to a mega church, but I feel like it would be real easy to lose that sense of like tight knit community and shouldering one another's burdens. I feel like you can lose that, and it's just like you're in a stadium at a baseball game rather than being in a church together. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you see that as good or bad, like mega churches?
Yeah, I think interestingly enough, Francis Chan, who we've both read some of his
Hmm.
books,
Hmm.
actually will leave his churches. He'll start a church, it'll get really big. He'll move on to the next church because he has trouble with that idea of a mega church.
Mm.
Um, and I do believe that's because you lose a lot of that fellowship, that shouldering each other's burdens. I think there are some mega churches that do a really, really good job of creating space for people still to have community.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, I do. I just think there are places that do a really good job of that. If you don't do that, at the end of the day, there are other places that are going to outside of church. And
True.
so I
That's
think
true.
people are finding that community in other places instead of inside the church. But yeah, I do think mega churches have affected that. We think that maybe I'm wrong with this, but I think that maybe it puts this idea in our mind that we can just show up to church, be entertained, and go home. And I'm
Yes.
not saying
Yes.
mega churches are trying to entertain
Sure.
by any means, because there
Sure.
is powerful worship in a lot of
Sure.
those services.
I
But
agree.
it's easier to check in and check out
Hmm.
when there's not a whole lot of community or involvement.
Well, I just think it's interesting that Jesus spent so much of his time equipping people to go.
Hmm.
rather than trying to draw people to him all the time. Now, he had some big crowds and he fed 5,000 and you know what I mean? Like those are kind of mega church services. But I feel like the ultimate mission of Jesus was for people to go, not for people
Yeah.
to gather.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're exactly right. I've said this 1,000 times. I think the young people at our church now and this youth council that we have, I've led youth groups where we've had 50, 60 kids regularly.
Yeah,
And those were great. And I loved those groups. But
sure.
the most impactful thing I've done is start this council because
Hmm.
I'm equipping kids then to go out and do the work. And then when they do that, they reach their friends and it just grows and spirals. So yeah, you may end up with a bunch of people, but it was all born out of fellowship. It was all
Yes,
born
yes.
out of community.
Yeah. Well, Hannah, it's almost like you're a professional podcaster because we're going to end
Oh.
talking about generational disconnect in the church
Ooh.
and whether or not that's killing the American church. I don't have any stats for you here, but
Mm-hmm.
I think that you and I and everyone who's going to listen to this podcast will understand and realize that there are more older people who go to church than there are younger people. And there are more older people, right? Like it's like an inverse relationship. The older you are, the more likely you are to go to church. The younger you are, the less likely you are to come to
Yes.
church. You are a youth pastor. I have been one. I teach high school.
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you right now, just at the one high school that I teach at with 160 students, I cannot tell you how bad of a witness and example that the Big C Christian Church has amongst high schoolers. It is terrifying, the types of
Yeah.
things that you will hear them say. It's like extremely concerning about the future. And so I think that, I mean, personally, I think there is a massive generational disconnect in the church.
Yeah, I think for sure. And I think some of it's because Big C church, older generation, or people like, I don't think I'm old. So people like me who have grown up in this and really made it are everything. We get so rooted in these ideas and these principles and these rules where when these younger people are coming in and I mean, and things have changed tremendously in the last 20 years. Like with
Yes.
the rise of social media and
Yes.
the way we connect. I mean, I, I believe, and maybe I'm wrong again here, but more than any other spout of time, I feel like things have changed.
Yeah, I think you're
Where,
probably right.
yeah, and
Yeah.
so I'm like, we're holding on to these ideas and these principles and these things that some of that has to be explored, and we have to adjust, and we have to be open, and we have to be aware of what these younger kids are going through. And I think we fail to do that because we're so set on holding on to what we knew worked before.
Yeah. Well, I do want to end our conversation and I'm going to tie into what you just said. I do want to end our conversation on like maybe having some hope from the future.
Sure.
How do we get the American church out of the nursing home and back on
Yeah.
our own, right, in a more healthy state? I think two things about this generational disconnect. And one is that I agree with you. I think that we have to rethink almost everything that the church does. And
Mm.
if that means service looks different, and if that means the schedule looks different, and if that means the things we do look different, I would say that most churches' schedules and ministries and things that they do look much more like 1940 than 2040.
Sure. Sure.
And I just think that we have to think more forwardly. And part of that is I think we have to be more open about the mistakes of the church and more
Yeah.
accountable for the things that we've done wrong. But also that our message almost has to be like a missionary message inside the United States. Like you always think of these people, and this is the type of language you use. We're going to send missionaries overseas, and they're going to live in their culture, and they're going to like adopt some of the things that they may dress like those people, and they may do some of the things of those people. I think that for really one of the first times in history, America is a mission field,
It's
and the
interesting.
and the old message of the church and the old ways. I'm not saying ditch everything, but that we've got to consider that we're a home missions church. We're in a mission field around us of not only people who don't know about church. It's worse than that. It's people who have a negative opinion about church.
Yeah.
And I think that's a harder hurdle to overcome, but we're going to
For
have to
sure.
start thinking about like in missionary terms. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. And I love what you said. We're overcoming not just people that don't know it, but people that have been hurt by it or people that don't
Mm,
like it.
yeah,
And that is a lived thing. You have to live and to be in community with those people and open. And I don't like to say those people in community with this younger generation or this
sure.
new cultural wave.
Yeah, of people who just haven't gone to church. don't have the same life experiences, don't have the same history with it. Right. That is such a huge difference.
Yep.
And I never hear any churches talk about that ever, but I
No.
think that they're just red blaring lights right in front of us that we have to at least think about some things differently. And I don't know what that means exactly. And maybe we can do an episode exploring that more. But just from where I'm sitting right now, to continue to do the same things and continue to do them the same way and say the same things in the same way seems insane to me because society and culture around us is changing so much. And like you and I have said, I'm not at all advocating for changing the central message of the
No.
divinity of Jesus and he wants to save your soul and resurrect you at the end of time. Of course, that's what this whole thing is built on. But I just think we have to adopt like a mission mindset to it.
I think that's great. And I think we should explore that in a later episode.
Okay.
Just brainstorm. Let's have, what's that called? A fishbowl?
A fishbowl. Let's do it.
Yeah, I think it'd be great.
Because here's the ultimate thing to me is that there is an opportunity here because fewer than half the people live in the United States. That's never happened in the history of this country before. And the Bible says, where sin abounds, grace doth much more abound. And
Yeah.
there's going to be this enormous harvest at the end of time that people are going to come to God. Well, that can't happen unless, to some extent, people have fallen away from God. And
Yeah.
I don't know when Jesus is going to come back, but right now in this moment, we're the church that's been tasked with reaching those people. There's a lot of promise to that. There's a lot of responsibility to that, but I think there is so much good that can come from the church living up to what the church should be.
I absolutely agree. I think you said it best. I don't think I can say anything else there.
Well, we would like to thank you for joining us today and look out in the future for our fishbowl episode. We always enjoy going beyond Sundays. The conversation today. If you have any thoughts or comments about our topic today or anything else, please reach out to us. Go to beyondsundays.pod.com for our show links and socials. And may the Lord bless you and keep you.